Welcome back, everybody, to what's going to be another fun episode of Paranormal: The New Normal. I'm your host, as always, Jeremy. Here just trying to make the world seem a little more normal. Does it ever really happen? We might have hit that mark a little bit last night. I don't know. It was an interesting episode last night, but tonight's episode, I think it will help a little bit in making the world more normal. But we'll see. We'll see. As always, I brought a guest with me to walk down this perilous path. And my guest tonight is Shannon Spring, an animal communicator, psychic medium, and so much more, I'm sure. But we'll get into all that in a little bit. There's only so much room in intros. But Shannon, how you doing tonight?
I'm great. I have my guide of being normal here in the background.
Love it.
Yeah. My personal muse is Cheshire Cat, right? Everybody's reality is just different, So mine is definitely different than a lot of people's. I spend most of my days talking to animals and dead people, which both groups make fantastic company.
I can imagine. And they do. Yeah, they do. Now, dead people are sometimes easier to be around than living people. So
they don't have any filters and no hidden agendas, and they can actually be quite funny.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It works. It works. So let me start off with the question I ask everybody on this show. What brought you down this path of the paranormal, this path of spirituality in a way?
Yeah. Well, religion was not for me. That was really punitive and limiting, and really became excited when I learned about spirituality. And, it's funny. I remember the first time I went into the spiritual section of a bookstore, it was a bit like walking into the porn section back in Blockbuster. Like, ooh, taboo. Was things about witchcraft and crystals and all these, secretive topics. So it's much more mainstream now and much more out in the open, but still so greatly misunderstood.
Oh God, yeah, it is. It's yes, and like this show is called, it's the new normal. It's the new normal, and nowadays I never imagined I would talk to over 200 people who are more spiritual than religious. I never saw that. I never saw that day coming in my life, but
and spirituality is empowering. It's teaching us about the power that we have inside of us, whereas religion is always somebody else's in power. So that's a whole different mindset shift that a lot of people don't want us to know, that we have our own gifts and abilities, and weren't born to be controlled and weren't born to live these limited lives where we're taught how bad we are all the time, and that everything that's fun isn't good, and the same people are the ones creeping out in the porn sections, they're the same people. It's like, anyway. Yeah.
Or in the darkest corners of the internet. But yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. It's going to be a shout out to the porn community tonight, but there you go.
It's actually hilarious because I literally had a pleasure and touchless orgasm coach on last night. So that's
my God. I'm psychically picking up on that. It's amazing how that happens. It's like today I was a guest on a local radio show in Tampa, 94.9, the Bone Magic 94.9. And I texted the guy ahead of time and I said, just so you know, they wanted me to do live pet readings in the show. I said it can get very personal, so get your felonies out with me now ahead of time so that your dogs and cats don't bring them up during the show. Sure enough, during the show, the dog gave me the song, the song by The Police. I'll be watching you. Remember that song? I'll be watching you.
Of course.
I said this to the guy. I'm like, your dog is singing that. I'll be watching you. And he told me that he got pulled over by the cops the prior week. Not a felony, though. Not a felony yet. But it's just a speeding ticket.
Well, thankfully. But
yeah,
thankfully. I don't even know why. I know what the hell my dogs would say if they freaking got red. I don't even know.
Well, they know everything that we're thinking and feeling.
They definitely do, because mine are kind of untrainable. So it's like they know when I'm getting upset because they're going running like crazy and not really like and pulling on the leash a lot, they could tell because then like they'll look at me and be like, sorry, and just stop. It's the funniest thing in the world. So when they actually do it, sometimes they don't care. And they're just like, screw you, we're gonna pull your arms out of their sockets almost.
Yeah, there you go. I've had 2 dogs get me out. I'm actually a very safe driver. Should my insurance company be watching? I'm a very safe driver. This is back in the day, as they say. But one of my dogs got me out of a speeding ticket one time because the second the cop got out of the car, the dog looked at him like, not my mother, you don't, you know? And then the next time the dog it was a different dog, different behavior of like, who won the cop's heart over. So 2 different approaches by 2 different dogs with 2 different cop personalities. They read the cops. I didn't even have to have an excuse. My dogs handled it for me. So
Well, yeah, I mean it's well, I can't say. I don't think I ever actually had. I know. I knock on some wood here. I haven't gotten pulled over in a good 6-7 years, so I'm
yeah,
gonna
that's good.
keep that luck going.
We'll
But
cancel that out is what you can say. If you're saying something like that, you just go cancel. So you're not sending that out into the universe, right?
the old knocking on wood adage works for me. But
There you go. Yeah, whatever works for you.
it's always worked. It's always worked. I can't say why. It just some things are old and they work for a good reason. But
The power of belief.
exactly. So yeah, the point of that was I don't think I ever had my dog in the. I mean, I don't take my dogs in the car that often, regardless, because yeah, my back window can't take any more slobber on it. But
They're
and
probably dying for a field trip.
and they're hard. Well, with being untrainable, they're kind of hard to take places on leashes because it's kind of like you're just gonna get you take them walking on a path or something, you're just gonna get dragged the whole time. Like
Why
it's
do you
like they
think
don't.
what makes you think they're untrainable? Let's get into their heads here. What are their names?
Munchkin and Moose.
Munchkin and Moose. And you call them untrainable. Interesting. They say that you haven't challenged them enough. Enough with the petty nonsense. We need real achievement tests. I swear to God, it's so interesting. It's like they're almost bored by the idea of having good house manners. But if you were like, look, I need you to become the presidents of the Neighborhood Watch Association, they would report in for duty in uniforms and do a great job every night. They just feel under challenge. Like, advanced students in the gifted group that are put down in the basic class, they're bored. I don't think they're
Yeah. I mean, well, I mean, if I could, yeah, maybe the main problem is I don't know how to train dogs. Never had to do that in my life, so it's a new experience for me, and
yes.
don't have the funds to get an actual like trainer that has experience with all
You
this.
can learn a lot watching YouTube. So I wouldn't call your dogs untrainable. That's more like you don't feel like learning about training is what that sounds like. That's one of my dogs' background.
I mean, I don't know. The last time we stopped letting them up in the house, pretty much for the most part, because Moose decided at one point to eat a sock, or not a sock, to eat a little small stuffed animal, and he cost me about $1,500 in surgery to get
Oh,
it
yeah.
out.
Yeah, I bet. What are you going to do with a baby on the way?
Oh, I mean, that's also the reason we don't let them in the house because, I mean, the baby coming is going to be a whole nother thing. I mean, they have a kennel out, they have a big kennel outside they can run around in and enjoy each other's company in, and they get to see our kids that way. The kids go over and say and talk to them and spend time with them. So, I mean,
In the yard?
yeah, in the yard. I mean, in the winter, it's a little harder. We find ways around it. We're working on a dog house now that we could possibly put out in the winter that will keep them nice and warm. But
Where do you live?
Massachusetts.
And they're outside all the time?
Well, in the summer, spring, fall, I mean,
Yeah.
in the winter, I mean, if it's a nice day, then sure. I mean, their fur keeps them warm. But if it's a nasty day, then of course not. Of course not. That'd be horrible. I wouldn't do that to any animal. But
Yeah.
I mean, the chickens they can do whatever they want in the snow. I don't care. But they usually stay in the coop anyway if it's snowy. But they're smart. But it's just I don't know. But I mean, they love the snow too, though. The dogs. I mean, some days if the chickens are locked up all day with the snow, we'll let them run free in the yard and
Yeah, sure.
they
Oh,
play with
I
the
mean,
kids.
more nature time, the better. But I live in Florida. Florida, or any extreme where it's too hot or too cold, they've got to have. My dog is trying to get up on me. Come on up. Yeah, they got to have shelter and
Oh God, yeah.
relief from the temperatures. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean, and luckily it doesn't get too hot up here, at least lately. I mean, I mean, not hot enough. I'm worried about them being in the grass. It's not like they're sitting on pavement. That'd be a whole nother story. But so, when did you first realize you were an animal communicator?
Well, when I was a kid, I didn't really know that's what it was called. Um, I remember in second grade, the teacher asked us all what we wanted to be when we grew up, and I said a veterinarian because as a kid, it's like the only job that you know of, or at least back then when I was a kid. You
Yeah,
want to work with animals? Veterinarian. I don't even think I knew about dog trainers back then. So, but I didn't really like science, and I was talking with animals and very psychic, engaged with spirits. And it went to sleep though when I became an adult. It was really talked out of me by adults, and I went to Catholic school, and they're not too big into paranormal. So, and it's not even paranormal. That's what's so crazy. It is natural. They say like yesterday's supernatural is today's natural. Something that used to be really normal before everybody took over the world and the environment. We were in harmony with nature
yep,
and animals, and it was normal to be able to communicate energetically and telepathically. We didn't always have language. People forget that. And then you just think about all the communication that happens with body language, with facial expressions. We're not using spoken language. So it's really not as weird as people think it is. It's just something, it's an easy target, especially pet psychics, to make fun of, you know?
of
I don't
course.
care.
I mean, I don't put much faith in anybody that makes fun of anybody for what they do. I mean, if a person says they have an ability and they could prove they can do it, which most can, then why are
Exactly.
you gonna make fun of it? I mean,
A lot of that's
it's
jealousy, it's
um,
like,
hmm
think about the pride community and how much hate they take on, and it's like, if you are that obsessed with someone else's lifestyle, I don't know, maybe you are wanting to explore and you're just too afraid to admit it. So
exactly,
whatever it is.
exactly. Some skeletons in their own closets, maybe that they
Mm,
don't want the world to see.
yeah.
But who knows? I mean, it's just yeah. I agree. I 100% agree. So you said when you were an adult, it kind of phased out. What made you kind of come back to it?
Oh gosh, a few things. I went through a really serious depression and was drinking a lot. I was a party girl, but like the party had left the building a long time ago. I was drinking
Yeah,
a lot, taking a lot of prescription drugs, and was really barely alive. Then when I came off of them and started getting sober, and I started discovering metaphysical healing and wellness, just by stuff I watched on YouTube. And once in a while you see on the news, I mean, you don't learn a lot about metaphysical healing and wellness and what is it, homeopathy on mainstream news. When I started discovering those paths to wellness and began getting sober, I then learned about hypnosis. So I signed up for some hypnosis sessions, and that was a game changer. With instead of sitting talking to a therapist about challenges and struggles where you're just paying somebody $200 an hour to just keep reliving your story over and over, I went into hypnosis where you actually get the insight and scenes into your own mind and into what's at the control, who's at the helm in your own subconscious. And the first time I did it, it was alarming. I actually saw myself chained in a dungeon. This is subconscious images, but I saw myself chained in a dungeon. And the first thought I had was, oh my God, how long have I been down here? You know, there was a big tiger waiting for me outside of the dungeon in a big, beautiful, grassy field with flowers and health. Like, come on out, Shannon. Whenever you're ready, come on out. We're here for you. And I did. I started seeing myself climb the steps out of the dungeon. Like the third session we did, the hypnotist took me through an exercise where she said, you're walking down a hallway. There's doors on the left, doors on the right. Which door do you choose? Well, you're not sitting here going, I don't know. Which door should I choose? You don't call a friend. You don't write a pros and cons list. You just choose because it's the subconscious right away. I said
of
the
course.
last door on the right. And she said, what's behind the door? I opened the door and I went, Narnia. And the second it came out of my mouth, Jeremy, I was like, and I'm getting a chill as I tell this story. It was like, whoa, everything has changed. It was like, playing video games where you hit the next level. And you're
Yep.
like, I've been trying to get to this level since I was 9, and all of a sudden you reach the next level and you're like, oh, hey, man, I don't need any of that anymore. Get off of me, get away from me, all the past. I stepped into Narnia. And weirdly so, my life, my real life, had been and continued to mimic the storyline of Narnia. I write about it. I just wrote a memoir. It's called Open Mic for Animals, Evidential Fairy Tales. And I talk about how my life was like Narnia, battle after battle after battle. My last name is Spring. And that's a whole, there's stories within stories. But anyway, that's one of the ways that I reclaimed my gifts, getting sober and doing hypnosis. So
Well, I mean, I love stories like that. They're so motivational, like they really are. And I mean, yeah, depression is a rough thing. It really, really
yeah,
is. I
it's
mean,
scary.
I've been there. I mean, no, maybe not to the level some people have, but I've been there, and I I never have actually been. Well, I never seen the mindset of being in a dungeon, but I mean, I definitely have felt that way. Like
Yeah,
that, there's
yeah.
nothing I could do to break out of it. Like doing things to cope with it. It's just it's not a fun time. And I mean, this was a decade ago for me, but still, it's just like I can remember it like yesterday. It's just not a. You don't want to relive those times ever, so you
It's
just.
terrifying. And
You,
meditation is a good way out of it, which it's like, try telling a drunk or drugged up person, like, hey, go meditate. All you want to do is sit there and eat Cheetos and, watch SpongeBob or whatever it is, because you're not feeling good. It's just like being able to find a little bit of a window to crack open to start to engage in healthier avenues that then can help you reclaim your intuitive gifts. And as soon as you experience just a taste of that, it's it changes everything. Talk about motivation and inspiration. You're like, oh, wait a minute, I can feel this good, and I don't have to do anything that harms me to feel this good. It's amazing. There's stories in my book about the Cheshire Cat, and how I was stone cold sober one day, Jeremy, sitting on my couch. It's a bit of an R-rated story. Speaking of porn, it's a bit of an R-rated story, and I was like, is that okay for your audience?
oh, what we are uncensored as could be. So go
Okay.
ahead.
I'm just making sure, right? I saw a child in your own background there, so I don't want to
He's
catapult him into adulthood by accident.
he's out of the room, and no one can hear anything except me. So it's all good.
Okay, good. I don't want to be responsible for breaking the innocence of anyone's childhood. Anyway, I was sitting there, like going, you know what? I need to meet somebody. That's telling the G-rated version of it. And all of a sudden, I see the Cheshire Cat in orb form coming in front of me like this. And I'm like, holy this is happening. This is really happening. And the Cheshire Cat goes, go eat cake. Now, I love sugar and I love cake. So I was like, you know what? I could use a piece of cake. I would love cake. True story. I get on my bike. I ride 2 blocks up to the local market to go get myself a piece of cake. In the parking lot was this cute guy that I'd met in my neighborhood like a couple of weeks beforehand. He's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, I came to get cake. He's like, that sounds like a great idea. We both ended up getting cake. Go back to my place and ended up dating for like a year. That's the Hallmark version of that story, but you can do the math of what eat cake means. We had cake and then we had cake. And it was like, that is the true story of how the Cheshire Cat helped, get my love life going again. Then fast forward, I don't know, 5 years, I'm sitting in an interview at a college and they were thinking about hiring me to teach some of my humor workshops, humor in business. And the guy asked me a question. I was like, I can see the Cheshire Cat right away, like wanting me to tell a story. I see the orb again. So I ended up taking I don't care who thinks I'm crazy. When you can back it up with evidence, there's
Exactly.
the good crazy and the bad crazy. So this is why I have a lot more fun now. It just doesn't matter. I also have a master's degree in education. I got plenty of street cred to be able to talk about the Cheshire Cat. Anyway, so I started telling the story about the Cheshire Cat eating cake. I cleaned it up a little bit, and no shit. While I'm telling the story in the middle of a business interview, a knock on the guy's door comes. He opens up the door. It was one of his students with a box of cake.
Sure.
And he goes, "You guys want some cake?" And I'm like, "Do you see what I'm talking about?" I said, "Magic is real." The story that I was telling the interviewer was that magic is real and how much magic I can create for their program by teaching humor in business. And then literally the Cheshire Cat shows up again delivering cake. So magic is real. The paranormal is normal. And the more fun you're having, sometimes the more hate you can take because people get jealous. Well, why is she having so much fun? And I'm not having any fun. You know what I mean? It's like if you have enough love in your life and enough sex in your life, you don't care about who anybody's screwing because you're having too much fun to care. If you have enough magic in your life, you're not jealous of anybody else's magic. It's not in limited supply. You just multiply it.
Exactly. I mean, I agree. It's all about just making sure you're happy, and then everything else in the world seems a little brighter, a little brighter. I mean, some things un are unable to brighten, I guess is the best way to put it. I mean, there are things in this world that are
Oh,
just
absolutely.
awful. But I
The
mean,
death of a pet.
oh God, yeah, we lost our original second master Farley at about 18, 20 weeks old.
That's interesting that you just said Farley. I have strangely.
Harley, but yeah.
Oh, Harley. Okay. I do have a story about a Harley as well, but there's a story for everything. I've been using the name Farley as like a random name this week. And whenever I do that, it usually shows up. I kept talking about cowboy, cowboy this, cowboy that. And tomorrow I'm going to help a horse named Cowboy.
Sure.
I said to a friend earlier this week, I said, you know what? I need to meet a real cowboy. None of these men that want to be cowboys or that are poser cowboys. I want to meet a real cowboy. And now I meet a horse cowboy because the universe and animals in particular have a wicked, wild sense of humor, you know?
Oh, true. It's really true. I mean, it is. And so, because I want to hear, because I asked this question of every animal communicator that comes on the show, and it's always provided some good answers, but I have a feeling yours are going to top all of them. What are some of the strangest, weirdest animal encounters you've had in your practice?
Oh my God. There was one that just happened this week. I was at a farm sanctuary and was really excited because everybody, usually thinks of this as dogs and cats. And my slogan is any species, any challenge, anywhere. And that is the truth. From mosquitoes to tigers to lions and bears and octopus and whales, you name it. So I was at a farm sanctuary and I was sitting on the ground in the pig pen with three little pigs. And I
Aw.
happen to love fairy tales. The subtitle of my book, Evidential Fairy Tales. And so I am actually sitting with the three little pigs. And the three little pigs, we're talking about the director of the sanctuary's brother, who I knew passed because the woman had mentioned it. I said, just a heads up, when we open the portal, the animals talking, a lot of the times the human spirits come in. Animals bring them in all the time for people. So I'm sitting in the pig pen. And the pigs started talking about her brother, Tony. And they said, yeah, Tony is like the big good wolf in the three little pigs, not the big bad wolf, but the big good wolf. And he's always here at night. He does night patrol and he's always here. So I say this to the woman. I don't know anything about her brother other than he's deceased. And the woman, of course, she waits for the cameras to go off. We had to turn the cameras back on to say it because she gives me like a stone face when I deliver this message. Cameras goes off and she goes, oh my God, Shannon, I didn't want to say this on camera, but which is when all the good stuff happens, right? You know
Of
this, just keep
course.
the cameras
Yeah.
rolling. And she said, we always called Tony the big good wolf. That was his nickname, the big good wolf. And he always did the night security and he's buried on the property.
Well, there you go. There you go.
There you go. Yeah, he's always there. The pigs are calling him the big good wolf, which was his nickname. So, animals don't speak English, but they do speak truth. And they know idiosyncrasies, jokes, euphemisms, books, movies, everything is energy. So they can use anything that's in our wheelhouse, your wheelhouse, the universal wheelhouse to teach us what we need to know about them and what we need to know about ourselves.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it makes sense. It just always made sense to me, and I've also heard so many great stories about communicating with animals on this podcast that in the past the proof is undeniable to me. I've heard so many different stories that make sense, and I mean, they all I mean, some of them are just stuff you wouldn't believe if you didn't think the person telling you was telling the truth. Like
Oh,
if you,
it's insane. It sounds, I tell people that if I didn't live these stories, I would have a hard time believing them. In fact, I was teaching children's programs. I taught the fun stuff like creative writing, debate, comedy, improv, and I was telling a story about a frog who wears telepathic plaid trousers. Okay, so this is a big stretch. And the little girl said, I had told them some of my animal communication stories, obviously in an age appropriate, child friendly way. And
of
she
course.
said, well, no offense, Miss Spring. She said, but your stories sound fictional. And I said, to you and me both, sister. To you and me both. These stories sound insane. There's a story about I lived in an apartment complex. Editing the story way down, there was a flood in my apartment and I had to move my furniture out into the breezeway. So I had this beautiful, gorgeous hand painted desk that was now in the breezeway, just ruined. And I walked out the next morning and there was this cute, adorable, like little fairy tale looking frog who had turned my desk into now like his outdoor frog palace, right? So I came out and I started chatting with him, and he was all excited, like, oh my God, this lady knows I'm real. She knows that I can talk back and forth. I'm not just a thing or not just a frog, or she's not going to shoo me off her furniture. So I sat there and I'm talking with the frog back and forth, just little pleasantries like you would with any neighbor. And all of a sudden, the frog jumps on me. Well, it took me aback and it landed on my chest. And I did, unfortunately, like a Lucy from the Peanuts when Snoopy kisses her, I did like, eek, frog germs, ah. And when I leaped back, it caused him to bounce off. And instantly I was filled with shame, like, oh God, I hurt the frog's feelings. Oh my God, I hurt his feelings. He was so nice. He's befriending me. He's coming onto my chest, to get closer. Anyway, so I felt so bad. I tried to apologize to him, but he was gone. So then I tried to bring him into my animal communication class at the time with other animal communicators. I was like, I'm going to have everybody talk to this frog. And I named him Robin, like Kermit the Frog's nephew from the movie The Frog Prince,
Yep.
right? Robin, that cute little tiny frog. So I named him Robin. So I put Robin on the communicator's agenda for all of us to talk to. And he kept getting bumped from the list. We kept having emergency medical cases or more important cases. And I said to the director at the time, I said, Robin is going to be hopping mad that he keeps getting bumped from the communicator's agenda list. He's going to be hopping mad. Sure enough, Jeremy, about 2 weeks passed. He still hadn't gotten into class. I walk under the breezeway in the apartment complex. So under the stairs, like where the stairs have empty spaces. Robin had perched himself up above the stairs right after I said he's going to be hopping mad and pooped on my hair.
Jesus.
It was like he staged a coup right when I was going to be there. And they went, pfft. I don't know if you ever smelled frog poop, but it is, I would rather spend the night in a horse stall. Like it's disgusting. That frog poop in my hair. I show up to class and, I'm laughing about it. I was like, we're even now, Robin. I hurt your feelings by eek frog germs. You pooped on my hair. We're even. And there was a woman over in India on the other side of the world. We're all talking with Robin, writing down notes of what we think Robin is saying, what our communications are. And I had written down in my notes, well, this is odd. He's showing me that he's wearing plaid trousers, right? He's wearing plaid trousers. A woman in India held up her notes the second I said this frog is wearing plaid trousers and shows she also saw him wearing plaid trousers. Where does that come from?
I mean, synchronicity is 100% real, and this universe does things for reasons, and that reasons we can't always explain. But I am 100% a believer in synchronicity. I mean, it's just part of the bigger thing, and stuff like that doesn't happen just for no reason. It happens to show people signs of it, and to show that the universe is connected.
Understand it.
Oh, yeah, they do. Then society usually kicks it out of their heads by the time they're teenagers, and by the time
Exactly.
they're adults, it's completely gone.
Yeah,
So
it's sad.
they,
And it's like, is this frog actually wearing trousers? In some parallel frog universe, perhaps. I call it Frogtopia. I write about it in my book. And I was like, somewhere in that universe, maybe all the people are wearing plaid trousers. I don't know. But it was pretty cool because right after that happened and we kind of made amends, I got this message to go into the neighborhood across the street, which was called Turtle Rock. and I got all my big business postcards and I was stuffing them in people's mailboxes, which I don't know how, as a grown adult, I didn't know was a felony. So don't do that. You're not supposed to put things in people's mailboxes. Anyway, I was putting my postcards in people's mailboxes based on what I heard from this frog. Like, go to Turtle Rock and put your postcards in the mailboxes. So I opened up one of the mailboxes. It was like the third mailbox I opened. And in the mailbox were 4 frogs that someone had stuffed in the mailbox that were going to die. You know, they had
Yeah.
no way to get out in the Florida heat. And I was like, I can't believe this. I was walking my dogs. I open it up. Of course, the dogs think it's Christmas morning. Now they're going to have, frog fiesta food. And they did not. I set the frogs free. Then I came back and little Robin the frog was waiting for me, this time not pooping, but just this energetic, thank you. It happens. It's real. It's stuff that really is straight out of a Harry Potter movie, straight out of a Disney movie. I've told my students, I said, this stuff that you see in a lot of these sci-fi and fantasy movies is real. It is happening. It's just that people aren't really attuned to it. So they think of it as imagination or fantasy when it's actually just as real as the conversation you and I are having.
Yeah, I mean it's true. I mean it's all just ultra terrestrial. It's all just different dimensions, and we basically over time shut our third eye that could see through them. I
Yes.
mean, there's some points where the where the portals are a little weaker and things slip through. I mean, hence hence
Yes.
all the Bigfoot and Dogman sightings and all that good stuff. But because I mean that's what those creatures are. They're just creatures from another dimension that we as humans used to see constantly on a regular basis and communicate with back in the Native American times. But Native every country really, because they're all around the world. But since then, we just shut it out because the churches in other places told us that's not real.
Right.
That's the devil. That's evil. Like it's just the.
Well, you
It
said
seems to
it,
be.
different dimensions. It's
Yep, it's different
different
dimensions.
dimensions. I'm in Sarasota, Florida now. You're in Massachusetts. We're in different states. We have different realities right now. But we have different temperatures, different supermarkets, different neighbors. We're living different lives. There's, it's such a narcissistic viewpoint to think that ours is the only one. And just because we haven't seen something, oh, it can't be real. It can't exist. People didn't think we could go to the moon. Somebody went to the moon. We really need to push past our own limits, and that's very, very threatening to the status quo and people that benefit from keeping the masses ignorant. So
I mean, yeah, it's 100% true. It's just they benefit from so long that it's taken people hundreds and maybe even 1,000 years to really wake up again. And the spiritual awakening has started. It's been happening. God, I've interviewed more people that have woken in the last 10 years than you could ever imagine. But
yeah,
it's happening, and sometimes it takes a pandemic or something like that for it to really start happening even more. But
that's right.
unfortunately, but good things come out of bad things sometimes. So
An awakening
yeah,
can happen like that. We talked about depression earlier. I have a different take on that. There's certainly, there's some people that are legitimately mentally ill and they need medication. Maybe they need institutionalization. They need a lot of help. Then there's people who have, I'm going to put it in quotes, depression, when really what it is a natural reaction to being forced out of your nature and being forced into a society or a system that is so unnatural. So then feeling depressed, feeling anxious, or feeling angry, or whatever it is really actually a normal, healthy reaction to something that's so unhealthily getting imposed upon us. So I take issue with so many people being labeled with mental illness that are just simply struggling to fit into something that we really weren't created to fit into.
I mean, yeah,
I mean,
I
what's more mentally ill, the people forcing us into this system or the people that don't fit into it?
that's I mean, I know what the government would say, but I know I completely 100% disagree and say it's the people who make the institution
Right.
it, that makes all these rules and boundaries. Trust me, I got a lot of problems with the well, not the government necessarily, but with institutions. I have a lot of problem with institutions and the stupid way they do things. Like Don't even get me started on the family court systems in America, but that's
I
a whole
just
nother
watched the
topic.
Harry Potter series, the movies, for the first time recently. I'm a little behind the times. I didn't watch Charmed until, like, 3 years ago. Sabrina the Teenage Witch caught up on that. Anyway, so I just watched the Harry Potter series, and I don't remember the evil villainous woman who unfortunately wore those adorable, cute pink suits. I was like, why does she wear such great clothes? And she's such a horrible human. But when I watched that series and I went, oh God, this is such a perfect example of how it happens. You take a school that was going very well with magic and wizardry, and everybody's learning their own crafts and their own powers. And then all of a sudden, they take away the after school clubs and they take away students' rights. And it's really scary how easily and quickly that can happen.
It is. I mean, Dolores Umbridge, the biggest villain in all of Harry Potter.
Dolores
I don't care what
Umbridge
anybody.
was.
I don't care what anybody says. That's the biggest villain in all of Harry Potter. Always will be. Always will be.
Great. And
Voldemort.
Harry.
Voldemort ain't shit.
Compared to her, that'd be an interesting debate. I don't know if you do polls on this, but you can do a poll. Who's the worst? Who's the worst villain? I forgot she was the one, and I just became a first-time cat mom. Speaking of paranormal, I just adopted a rescue cat at Easter time. His name is Magic Mike. He named himself, and since Magic Mike has arrived, my own gifts continue to open up. His first night here, Jeremy, I put him in my little home office, which backs up to my bedroom, so he'd be safe from all the dogs, until everybody got to know everybody. So I kept Magic Mike in my office. Before I left to go to sleep in my room, I said, hey, Magic Mike, I'm so glad you're here. We're going to learn so much from each other. And, maybe you can help me up my game in astral traveling. I just throw that out there for fun. Maybe you'll help me up my game astral traveling. I woke up at like 3:30 in the morning. One of my dogs, he's on the other side of the computer here, Kermit the dog. I wake up. Kermit is standing over me like this with this spooked out look in his eyes. And I am in this otherworldly alternate reality. And I go, where am I? Where am I? And I was in my own room, but not, so much so that it alerted the dog, like, mom ain't here. Where is she? And it's like the cat had just returned me into my body from wherever he had taken me. The dog picked up on it and the cat was like, you're welcome. No problem. What's next?
Interesting, because I mean, I've had astral projectionists on the show before, and it's fascinating. I have a co-host on another show. I do Global Strangeness. That actually during COVID, that's what she did. She took classes on how to do it, and
Yeah.
there was New York City cops in it and everything too. Like law enforcement's actually taking it very seriously, like as
Oh,
like a way
yes,
to.
they do. Yes, they do.
I mean,
Remote viewing, astral traveling, all of this stuff. They don't want to admit it, but psychic detective work. So I do psychic detective work as well. It's fun. I was criminally profiling a animal abuser over in China the other day. I didn't know anything about the case other than she tortured cats. Interestingly, Magic, my cat, completely left the room when I was working on that case, which was good. But I'm getting all the details on this criminal that I knew nothing about, that then the people over in China were able to confirm. It's, again, all abilities inside of us, just a matter of tuning into it and then getting rid of all the bullshit that clouds those gifts and abilities.
exactly. I mean,
If you have blinders on, if you put horse blinders on, don't complain that you can't see the movie,
I like that. I like that saying. But
Take off if you have headphones on. Don't complain you can't hear the music that's playing outside, what you're listening to. It's take off whatever is on you, in you, and around you that's blocking your abilities. It might be your spouse. It might be, your boss. It might be yourself. So a lot of people are married to spouses or have a partner that's like, the negative Ned in the relationship, or the Debbie Downer that's always pooping on their parade. That energy is rough to live with.
yeah, I mean, it can be. I've known people like I've had partners like that in the past. I wouldn't say anymore, but in the past, God, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just no, you can't do that. You can't have that. I mean, I've had friends who I could see that like from the outside, looking in, I could see that, and I'm just like, God, I help you. It won't last long,
Yeah,
but
right.
Hopefully, but
There's like magic happening on one side of the bed, like the spiritual party, and then the other side of the bed is, the dude's just snoring away, drooling on himself. You got to open the light.
exactly. And since you do live in Florida, I gotta ask. I mean, being so close to SeaWorld, have you ever gone and talked to any of the wrongfully imprisoned mammals?
Yeah. Well, yes, I definitely would not go into SeaWorld or support them, but I have talked with Marine Life. And, they are very aware of their plight, as are like bears are aware of the plight of dolphins and whales. All of the animals are aware of each other and what they go through and what they're up against. The Marine Life, fascinating to talk to. One of the things that I learned from talking with them was how human centric we are as a species, with so many people say, well, now they can't survive out in captivity. That may or may not be true. It's really based on the individual animal, but don't make a blanket statement like, oh, because they've been in an aquarium for 50 years, they now can't figure out how to survive in the ocean. That might not be true. And in some cases isn't. So then people say, well, we can't set them free. And I'm like, you know what? Based on some of the conversations I've had with these animals, they'd rather give it a shot. Like, set them free, and they would rather die trying out in the wild than spend another day or two or years in a swimming pool. Now, for example, there's some elephants that were in captivity that now are in sanctuaries and thriving and doing very, very well, and that's where they should be. That's where they need to be. This is the case with a lot of animals that have been abused or raised in captivity. I'm just saying it's not true for all of them. Just like not all kids who have disciplinary problems are going to thrive by going to military school,
No,
or
of course not.
it's really, we need to take an individual approach with the species and the individual animals, what will be beneficial to them, and involve them in the conversation.
Yeah, if you animals will if you hold up two things, they will tell you which one they prefer. So they can make choices. They definitely can. And part of me wishes I could communicate. I always wanted to be able to communicate with animals. I used to read Calvin Hobbes' kids or Animorphs, and I used to freaking wish I had that ability. It's it's freaking awesome.
Try it with your mastiffs. You can learn animal communication. I will be teaching animal communication very shortly here in the fall on shannonspring.com. Come take a class. It's a lot of fun. There's many different instructors out there. Everybody has a different approach. Some people say, oh, you can get nothing wrong. You can get nothing wrong. Well, that's not true, but you give it a shot. Keep an open mind. Be willing to make mistakes, and don't come at it from what the animal can give to you, but what you can give to them and receive from them. That's crucial. You just said something a minute ago, and it slipped my mind, but about learning animal communication. Oh, involving them in the conversation. There's a wonderful organization out there called the Non-Human Rights Project. Oh, wow. And the president of it, Stephen Wise, just passed February of this year. And they fight for the rights of captive wildlife. They've been laughed at. He used to get barked at by fellow attorneys. This man went to Harvard. Smart man, full of a smart team of people that goes and advocates really what's common sense. Animals are smart, intelligent, sentient beings. They are born with the right to have bodily autonomy. And then there's people going around stealing that right from them. There's a lot of kids that think animals come from zoos. That's really scary.
No, I see. That's why I always make sure. My kids have been to zoos because I see. I love zoos since I was a kid. It's just a thing where it's one of my favorite places to go. But I also hate when if they're a lot of the zoos nowadays do have the big open areas for the bigger animals, and they can actually move around and not be walking back and forth in a cage like tigers or lions back in the old days. But it's still, these animals should be in the wild. I know this. Part of me always feels it, but then I couldn't go see them as easily. Then I'd have to travel continents.
It's an interesting discussion because not all zoos are doing the wrong thing. So I will say that. A lot of them are. And we can appreciate. So I appreciate Jane Goodall, the famous researcher she's about 90 now, I think, who studied chimpanzees. I can appreciate Jane Goodall, read her books, support her cause, watch her movies, donate money, whatever I want to do. I don't have to physically meet Jane Goodall to appreciate her and love her and respect the work that she does. It's the same with animals. It's lots of fun to get to see them, but I would rather never get to see any of them and know that they are living their lives. Animals don't need us to be in cages to love, appreciate, and respect us. It's really making that shift over what we have the right to do. And again, the people who fear animals having rights are the ones making money off of them.
Of course. I mean, it's,
The
yeah, I
circus.
mean, yep, look at that.
This
Look
is
at the
coming
whole,
to Sarasota here.
I mean, look at the, oh, I mean, yeah, I went to a circus at the Biggie, the Eastern State Expedition. It's like 5 different states, like all do it in Massachusetts every year. And the first time I went to the circus there, like they actually had elephants, and I was amazed. I was like circuses still have elephants? I thought that
Yeah,
was banned years ago.
yeah.
Like I was amazed.
There's
Like I
only
was
a
like,
handful of states that have banned it.
I mean it's. But then like I went like consistently for like next few years to it every year, and we check out the circus, and every year it changes, and never saw any kind of animals again besides like dogs. But so I mean I don't know if it was just a different company or what, but I mean
Yeah,
I mean I don't know. When I was a kid I would go to the circus and see like
sure.
elephants and tigers
Yeah.
and lions. And I loved it. I loved it. I mean yes, as long as the circus is treating them right, I don't mind because it's just like they're like pets then. But if the circus is gonna be sitting there messing with them, whacking the bars on the cage, barely
Well,
feeding
but
them, like that's horrible.
yeah, going by your statement, as long as they're treating them right, you have to say, well, where did they get them from? And they're kidnapping them from the wild. So right off the bat, they're not treating them right. Lack of abuse and cruelty doesn't mean they're being treated well. That's Stockholm syndrome. That's a whole other conversation, not about paranormal. But, to be an animal communicator and do what I do, I have to have a pretty clean, transparent life about the way I treat animals. I mean, I looked at my shoe collection and my purse collection and was like, oh, I have a lot of leather. Now I won't buy leather anymore. It's to me, it's a matter of respect and compassion. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It is. It is. I mean, and it's just. I mean, it's a very complicated thing. It's a complicated thing in this world.
I think
But
it opened up my gifts a lot when I personally stopped living so as self-centeredly as I was. So anyway, your child is dying to join this conversation.
she just likes to be nosy sometimes. But it's just. I mean,
Ask her what question she would like to ask Moose and Munchkin, and I'll answer it because I know we're running out of time. But we can
oh,
talk
she
to your
went.
dogs.
Yeah, yeah. Let's. I mean, she went inside, but yeah, we could talk to the dog. That's for sure. I mean, I am kind of curious what they have to say, especially about killing chickens a couple days ago. But
Yeah. So that would be like putting your kids in a room full of donuts and telling them not to eat the donuts.
yeah, I mean, it's not even. I guess. I mean, yeah, okay. I was gonna say it's not like it's a room, but yeah, okay. I get the metaphor. It kind of, yeah.
It's
And then you are.
it's an unreasonable expectation to have two big mastiffs that have a lot of energy to burn, and tell them don't eat the chickens, which is prey and food. So, do they eat chicken in their meals?
No, I mean, they only get like dog food. Like I don't even remember what brand I buy, but they get dog food. Like they just get the dry dog food normally. They are sensitive to a lot of foods. Like it gives them digestive issues.
Yeah,
So
kibble. I mean, this is getting into. There's rabbit holes within rabbit holes here, but kibble is pretty bad for dogs overall and cats, health wise. Like we're always taught dog food, dog food, dog food, or cat food, cat food. And really, they're better off eating people food. It's just a matter of feeding them the right people food. Don't feed them Skittles and licorice. Give them
yeah.
fresh meat and fresh vegetables. So
I
yeah,
mean, yeah, I mean, they'll get us. They'll get. I mean, if yeah, they'll get a steak once in a while if it looks like it's been in the freezer too long and it's just not. good enough for dinner. Like they'll get a
Jeremy,
steak.
my heart is breaking for your dogs. What are we gonna do? We'll have to bring the conversation back to paranormal pets because yes, I just want to give your dogs a hug.
Oh, they get hugs all the time, but it's trust me, they love hugs. They love hugs. They'll jump up right on you.
Empowering
And
animal communication. It will change your relationship with your pets. And really even just being silent with them, like sending out a thought to them of, what could I do to make you guys happier and healthier? Wait for the first thing that drops in, and it will drop in. You don't go fetch it. It they'll send it to you. Like when I met my cat and he was at the shelter, his name was Mr. Bateman. And I'm like, that's a terrible name for this cat. So I tried out a couple of names on him and he didn't respond to either one of them. How about Narnia? No. How about Aslan? No, he didn't respond. So I went to close the door at the shelter and I hear him say energetically, Magic Mike. So he gave me his own name. And I was trying to go fetch, what about this, what about that, and then when I just sort of released it, he told me the name. So there's lots of different ways that we can learn to communicate with our pets, getting silent with them, inviting them to teach us, and putting them on the same level with us. We still have to be the leader, like your parent. You're a parent, you need to lead your
yep.
child, you need to pay the bills, feed them, take them to the doctor, take good care of them, be responsible. It's the same thing with our pets, but we don't want to see ourselves as in over them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean equals. You don't want they're equals. You don't want to be like a owner master thing because that's not really the way.
You are muted. Is that to discipline the child?
No, not at all. But
All right. Well, I know we're running out of time. I just, yeah.
it's all good. But I did want to ask you this question because I like to ask everybody who talks pets this: do they reincarnate? Like, can you have the
Oh,
same dog multiple
absolutely.
times?
Yeah, absolutely. Not every single one. I would say that it's a preference. Just like with people's souls, they have a choice as to whether or not they want to reincarnate, and then they make a choice about what species they'd like to reincarnate as: a person, a cat, a dog, a bird, a dolphin. Just like our souls have choices, their souls have choices, and some of our pets will stay with us throughout our entire lives. Some of them might be with us in childhood and come back in old age. It really just depends, but absolutely they reincarnate.
Which is, see, I always get that answer, and I'm always happy to hear it every time. It's like it's almost like I want to hear one person say like, no, they can't. So I could just be like, are you sure? Like it seems
Well,
like
not
they
every
would.
pet. I think be very
Yeah.
careful of an animal communicator or medium who, tells you what you want to hear. So for me, I much prefer when an animal volunteers on their own that they plan to reincarnate. But sometimes people will ask me, is he going to come back to me? Is she going to come back to me? Before they're losing the pet. And so rather than just say yes off the bat, I have to ask the animal what their intentions are. And they may not even know. They may be undecided at that point. So that's why I don't want to go to the immediate yes or the immediate no that I hear. I want to get everything from the animal's words and then relay that to the person.
It makes sense, 100%. And I mean, it's same as every human. Not every human can reincarnate. That's 100% true as well. I mean, it depends on, well, one depends on what your beliefs are for reincarnation for humans, because I get a lot of different answers to that one. But I mean, personally, I believe it's possible. I believe we can come back as anything we
I do
want to,
too. Yeah.
whether it be human, animal, or extraterrestrial, even maybe even.
Yeah.
But I've been I've heard about past life experiences that people have that
It's
transgressionists have done on
very
people, and
real.
it's extraterrestrial. And I'm like first time I heard it, I was like, really? I always imagined that would be the case, but I had no proof till now. So yay! But
When you
yeah,
think of spirit, the creative force being unlimited, then it's unlimited. We can't then put rules and limitations on something so massive that it created all of these different realms, these different dimensions, different beings, different creatures. It's, even just thinking of all the different species that are out there. There's so many different possibilities within possibilities. So,
I mean
yeah.
there is, there truly is, and Okay, and actually, I have not asked. I keep meaning to ask this, but I keep forgetting because you're in Florida. I gotta
Are you
know.
are you
Have you?
smoking weed? Is that causing you forgetting?
No, this is just my people have been telling me lately they think I have ADHD, and I'm just like, or ADD, and I'm like, it's possible. It's
Is
possible.
it
Shiny
pot?
up.
Is it pot that you're smoking? What are you smoking?
Oh, cigarettes. But
Oh, it's just cigarettes. Okay.
yeah, but you're in Florida, and I've heard of one person that has done this before, but I never. And I talked to this person obviously, but I never like a lot of people have said like, no, I never tried that. Have you tried communicating with gators?
I will actually be doing that in October, if not sooner. Am studying animal Reiki, and I will be heading to a sanctuary in Apopka, Florida. I don't know geography very well, but I know it's on the other side. And gators is part of the program, communicating with gators. And it really seems like gator attacks are up, on people. There's a woman in Tampa who, but now, people are, of course, taking over their land. But yes, I will be talking with gators and every species. Well, let me be careful how I say this. I don't want to say every species has their own personality. There's certain characteristics, of course, that prove true, but then each individual animal has their own personality, their own wisdom, and their own sense of humor. So,
They do. I mean, they all. That's why I've always heard they all their own personalities, and I've heard that like I asked like one another animal communicator one time like what is the one what animals are like the least entertaining to talk to? Which ones are
mosquitoes, horrible, just as likable as you would think. I talked with an octopus one time that was super snarky, and yet I respected it. It everybody has the right to be who they are. Speaking of people, as long as they're not hurting somebody else, but it's a wild rainbow of emotions and personalities and senses of humor. I just did an interview the other day where I talked all about the sense of humor of animal, and I tell lots and lots of stories, open mic for animals, of the animal's sense of humor. There's a lot about animals in the afterlife. There is a little bit of reincarnation in there. There's really a little bit of everything. How I became an animal communicator, how different species can look out for each other. Like even if there's a dog in the shelter that hates all dogs, he can actually still be very helpful and compassionate towards animals in the telepathic process. It's truly is a wild rabbit hole to go down to, and a very worthy one. I'd encourage you to learn animal communication for no other reason than, you don't have to become professional, but just to develop a deeper, stronger bond with your dogs. It's so beautiful. It's a game changer, and you'll have a much easier time training them when you learn animal communication. We are definitely out of time, and I know you got to get to your daughter, and I'm going to go eat it. I'm going to go eat some vegan pizza because I am
yes
starving.
yep well I mean I do appreciate you coming on. It's been the hours flown by because it's been such an entertaining conversation, and I will say as far as octopi go, octopus is however you want to say it. Yeah, I mean, one, I don't believe they're from this planet. Two, I they're supposed to be intelligent as could be, so I can easily see I I can easily see them like being snarky because of how intelligent they are. It's just a thing.
Well,
I
and
can see it.
somebody drew the comparison recently between how much octopi look like aliens, and
Exactly.
that's no coincidence that they actually look so much alike. And watching the movie My Octopus Teacher, the documentary, have you seen that?
Mm, no,
You
I
will
haven't.
like it, and probably even your daughter. The first time I watched it, I actually fell asleep because it's so relaxing. Then, when I had a good night's sleep, I sat down to watch it. It's a beautiful story about a man developing a deep love, friendship for an octopus, a scuba diver.
Uh,
That's animal communication as well. It's not always question and answer and getting to know each other, it's just being with them without an agenda.
bonding. Yeah, bonding.
Bonding. Yeah,
It makes sense.
exactly.
And I mean it's I don't know if you've ever seen the show Resident Alien, but it's a
Is it
sci-fi show.
documentary? Did you say? What'd you say?
No, it's a sci-fi show. It's a sci-fi channel
Oh, I have to check
show.
it out.
I forget the actor's name. I love him, but I just
It's
forgot his
called
name.
Resident Alien.
Yeah, and literally he's one of his best friends when he finds his friend when he's on Earth, and it's actually an octopus in a tank at a restaurant. But so I mean, it's funny because it's like their species are closely related, I guess, or something like that. But
I would say to all the people that think other people are crazy that have these experiences, it's like, wait until something happens to you. And then you'll be like, oh, wow, this is really real. I did a reading for a cop recently that walked by my animal communicator booth at a festival. And she was very polite. And I said, no, don't humor me. Have a seat. I'll prove to you this is real. And within 5 minutes, I brought through her deceased dog and her deceased sister with evidence that, made her turn pale as a ghost. And she said, oh, you're like really real. I said, yeah, tell your friends, tell your friends.
yeah,
Anyway.
well, yeah. I mean, that's how you gotta do it. You gotta prove to people it's real. Then they stop being non-believers, and they're like, okay, maybe there's more out there than I think there is. And that's
Yeah,
one small step at a time. That's all it takes. And
that's right.
that's why paranormal is becoming the new normal. And bam, there's a good end line. But
That's right.
please
That's right.
t- tell my listeners, Shannon, where they can find you, where they can find your book, where they can find anything about you they want to find.
Yep. My website, shannonspring.com. And my social media handles are all on there at Mayor Puppy Pants, named after the dog in the tuxedo up there. Mayor Puppy Pants, that's Kermit the dog underneath him. But everything you need to know about me and my book is on shannonspring.com. The book is in print, ebook, and Audible. And I narrate it, which was a ridiculous amount of fun getting to insult my enemies and tell my fun stories all on Audible.
Well, I will, of course, post that link in
Nice.
when this comes out as a podcast, so all the listeners can just go click on it.
Thank
But
you.
I want to thank you for coming on one last time because it's been incredible. And for all my listeners, you know where you can find me. God, it's been 2 years. If you don't know by now, just shame. But
Jeremy, I had fun talking to you, and I look forward to hearing stories about your dogs. And your daughter is adorable. So I miss teaching. I taught animal communication, and I miss it. So I have to get back to that as well. Maybe your daughter will take one of my animal communication classes.
Someday, maybe someday. we'll see. We can maybe.
Are you afraid of her learning these skills without you knowing them?
No, God no. I never would.
She and the dogs will trade secrets and jokes about Dad.
They probably already do, and I don't even know it.
They probably already do.
But folks, I will see you tomorrow with another interview. Have a good night.